What is up, guys? It is the Sound Alchemist, and today I bring you more 40 facts on the Warhammer 40k universe. Once again, we dive into the fan section of the 40k lore. I really like these things because I get to interact with the community as well as broadcasting their own information out into the interwebs for you guys to critique and enjoy. Now, this one's a little bit pretty interesting. I don't even know if that made sense. A little bit pretty? What am I on, guys? What am I on? This one's interesting because it is a successor chapter to my fan chapter, the Celestial Sons. So it's pretty crazy how something that I came up with is now being used to create further lore. Which that's what 40k is all about. It's for you guys to use the lore that's already there and build off something that you guys can make your own. So awesomeness, Citizen Soldier for making this. I will put a link to the rest of the lore because he's got quite a bit. So I'll give you a good overview, I'll give you the meat of it, and then you guys can go to his page and get the sides, so to speak, of the rest of the lore. So without further ado, guys, let's jump into the successor chapter of the Celestial Sons, the Magi Empyrean. The Magi Empyrean are a successor chapter to the Celestial Sons, the 11th Legion. They broke off from the Celestial Sons at the end of the Great Crusade, proving to be their salvation. When their parent legion was assailed from inside and out by the forces of the Chaos God Zeech, the Magi Empyrean managed to evade destruction. The Magi Empyrean draw the recruits from the world of Grey Shroud, after the Dark Eldar raid on their planet left them all but completely defenseless. The planetary governor agreed to keep the chapter a secret and to provide them with recruits in return for protection from further attacks. After the 11th Legion suffered horrendous losses, the Magi Empyrean decided to deviate from their parent legion's calling. The Celestial Sons were charged with using the Catan shards to bring forth the Emperor back from his half-dead state. However, their successors decided that following that path would draw too much unwanted attention to them, as the successors were a dying legion. Instead, the Magi Empyrean had taken to attempt to gain access to the knowledge of the Eldar to repair the Golden Throne of Terra to the point where the Emperor of Mankind may pass on, and due to his perpetual status, be reborn into a new body and lead the Imperium anew. This search has led them to using certain amounts of Xenos technology and a small amount of adaptation to their psychic powers. This will provide a list of some of their commonly used weapons and tactics. The armor. The Space Marines that were originally from the Celestial Sons Legion and the rare initiate from a medium to high gravity world wear standard pattern Astartes power armor. The initiates taken from the Magi Empyrean's primary recruitment world are significantly taller and thinner than a standard Imperial citizen due to the low gravity environment. This resulted in the development of special armor created from mixing Astartes Scout armor and Dark Eldar Ghostplate armor. This new armor appears just like Scout armor upon first glance, and it is stronger than Scout armor but weaker than standard Astartes power armor. The warriors who wear this new armor, dubbed Lithe Steel armor, cannot wear helmets. Astartes helms are incompatible with their new armor, and Xenos technology in a helmet bears too much risk of malfunction or corruption to the wearer. The psychic abilities. The Magi Empyrean use psychic abilities primarily in a defense or a passive role to defend against incoming damage, to enhance the natural abilities of the Space Marine, and to change the laws of chance in their favor. They follow the active psychic disciplines of Fulmination and Celestian, which they inherited from their Celestial Sons successor chapter. Runes. The Magi Empyrean utilize a secondary alphabet of sorts, based off of Eldar runes. These are tattooed upon the body, primarily the head, and grant the wearer passive psychic abilities. These runes are what enhance the abilities of the warrior beyond most Space Marines, and with blessings from their chaplains, they can change the laws of chance into their favor. As the warrior grows older and gains better control over psychic abilities, more of these tattoos runes are added, enhancing the warrior further and giving the strongest and most potent warriors the best chance of surviving. The active abilities. The warriors of the Magi Empyrean have no librarians among them because they are all potent psychers. As such, they hone their powers as the warrior matures and gains experience. Only those who reach the rank of sergeant or higher are permitted to attempt to use even the mildest of active powers. Solar lightning. The Space Marine channels the power of the sun itself into a single beam of energy, vaporizing the minds and bodies of foes alike. Force channeling. The warrior channels his psychic essence into his blade, empowering it with the power to rend one's soul from the body, from the merest of scratches from this empowered blade. Solar flash. The warrior pours forth the blinding light of the Emperor to stun and disorient his foes, more potently even if he had been using a blinding grenade. The lance of light. The Space Marine extends his will, and the psychic energy of his Primarch manifests into 2 bolts of white lightning, capable of puncturing even armor compatible to that of the Land Raider APC. This can be used at limited range or in melee combat. The strains of the mind and will can only be used by captains and chapter masters, originally from Celestial Sun's Legion and Sternguard veterans. Celestial alignment. The warrior uses his psychic might to invoke the stars to change fate itself, granting the warrior foresight, enabling him to foresee the enemy's action for a short period. This strains the mind and will and can only be used by the chapter master, captains, and marines originally from Celestial Sun's legions, as well as Sternguard veterans. And lastly, we have the Solar Bolt Orbs. The Astarte calls forth several orbs of energy lightning that can be absorbed to heal the Space Marine instantly, or they can be launched towards an enemy, searing through flesh and armor alike. This ability is incredibly straining on the mind and will, and only those originally as part of the Celestial Sun's Legion can use this magnificent power. And lastly, we have the tactics, beginning with Space Tactics. The Magi Empyrean are a completely ship-based chapter, and thus are excellent at engagements in space and navigating the stars. Their combat tactics often revolve around sending a lone ship with a guidance beacon in it alone against the enemy force. When the enemy moves to engage the other battle vessels, will appear from the Materium in the midst of the enemy, homing in on the locator beacon, and use massive amounts of short-range macro weaponry to quickly destroy their enemies while they are caught completely off guard. Conventional warfare. Their tactics on the ground are often similar to their tactics in space, but on a larger scale, using their psychic abilities to evade detection until the main force is ready to ambush the enemy. In most smaller engagements, they prefer to use small squads and outmaneuver the enemy using a mix of speed and psychic abilities to overcome the enemy at range, hopefully at minimal loss to them. They treat infantry and vehicles with roughly the same regard as the Magi Empyrean, favor using Melta, Las, and Plasma weaponry. And this brings us to the end of the Magi Empyrean chapter. Let us know what you guys think about this successor chapter to My Celestial Sons. Again guys, I do have a link to where you can get the rest of this lore, but for the meantime, let him know how he can improve his lore, what else you guys want to see from him, and how he can move on forward, because this is a pretty great start if you ask me. I really like the lore of using the Eldar to kind of strengthen themselves. The whole low gravity planet for the recruits kind of reminded me of the Tau, what is it, Aircast? But I know that's a whole completely different thing anyway. But yeah, this is a pretty good start. I congratulate you on the lore. Really awesome. Really good thinking you got there. But for now guys, like I said before, let him know what he can do to improve in the comments below. If you really loved it, again, thumbs up. We do have more lore all over the place. I am making some playlists on my Celestial Sons, so if you want to watch that, it will be linked at the end of the video, as well as all the lore that we have gained from you guys, the viewers, is also compiled into another playlist. So that will also be linked at the end of this video. Big thank you for this awesome lore that you sent us. If you guys have your own lore, send it to us via Facebook, and we might feature it on one of our 40 Facts videos. If you want to support One Mind Syndicate, you can always head on over to our Patreon page. Now, Patreon is $1 a month, and you guys get access to creepypastas, Patreon specific for the Greater Walls. And in the meantime, you can head on over to Facebook. We post each and every day on Facebook, usually with some 40k awesomeness, but we also post some other stuff there. So if you're into anime, we post some like Dragon Ball Z stuff and whatnot. Magic the Gathering is also on there, Yu-Gi-Oh is on there, and Pokemon. So again, guys, all things nerdy, head on over to our Facebook page. That's all the time I got for you. Once again, thanks Citizen Soldier for your lore. As always, you can hit us up on our social media sites. And this has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I am signing out.